Class, happy Monday. Good morning. Today is April 20. Learning targets today is to identify who some important thinkers in the Enlightenment are. We've already talked about two of them, Thomas Hobbes and John Locke. We're going to be adding to that. We'll be talking about 5 more, but we won't talk about all 5 of them today. We're going to split them up over 2 days. Our agenda is first there is a bell ringer question that you need to answer. After that, we will be taking some notes on a few of these other Enlightenment thinkers, and we will do the other part tomorrow. We're going to split it up, so today's part 1. At the end of class, there is an exit slip quiz. This quiz is not graded, it's just practice. However, you will be having a real graded quiz the end of this week, and the plan as of now is to post that quiz Thursday and give you Thursday and Friday of this week to get it done. So the exit slip quiz is just one of the ways you'll have to review for the real quiz the end of this week. So first thing you need to do is a bell ringer question. Last week I asked you to consider whether you think humans are naturally good or if they are naturally bad. Now what I want you to do is kind of compare the good versus the bad, and then tell me what you think in this bell ringer question. So are humans naturally good or bad? I don't just want you to tell me what you think, but explain how and why. Give some form of evidence to back your opinion up. So please do that first. If you need to pause the video, go for it. Are humans good or are humans bad? Second thing is taking some notes. So get notes ready for that. These will help you, and these will be on your quiz the end of this week. First is a vocab word. This will be on Quizlet, which I will post for you later this week. We talked about philosophy, which is a system of ideas. This word is spelled almost the same, but there's an E instead of a Y. A philosophe is a person, a member of a group of Enlightenment thinkers who tried to apply the methods of science, so the scientific method, the scientific revolution, those ideas, that way of thinking, to improve society. This will be slightly different than a physiocrat. Physiocrat is also a person, an Enlightenment thinker. They are searching for natural laws to explain economics. So the key difference between a philosophe and a physiocrat is that a philosophe focuses on society, and you could add government to that as well if you'd like, while a physiocrat, focuses on the economy instead. So both of them are using Enlightenment ideas, the Enlightenment style of thinking, natural laws, reason, logic, etc., just focusing on different aspects of life. What we're going to do is go through a couple Enlightenment thinkers, explain who they were, explain their key Enlightenment ideas, and then explain a little bit about how did they impact societies. And this third question is one I'm not going to give you directly. It's actually one that you're going to partially answer on your own as part of a homework assignment you'll have tomorrow, just not today. What I'd like you to think about is this question at the bottom. Which Enlightenment thinker out of the ones we list had the biggest impact on society, either back then or even still for us today? Biggest impact, good or bad, doesn't matter. So we have 7 main people we're focusing on in this unit. 2 of them we've already talked about, John Locke, Thomas Hobbes. So I will very quickly just review those 2 people, save us some time on this video. For the rest of today, we will go through Jean-Jacques Rousseau and Voltaire. Tomorrow, we'll go through Mary Wollstonecraft, Adam Smith, and Montesquieu. Today, we're just focusing on these first 4, specifically the last 2 out of this group. We've already done the first 2. I will post this Prezi on Google Classroom later. So first, John Locke. His main writing was Treatise of Government. His key idea was this idea of a social contract, the fact that government's job is to protect our natural rights. The 3 he identified were life, liberty, and property. Radical idea is that if the government does not hold up its part of the social contract and protect those rights, then the people they govern can overthrow and replace that government. That idea of overthrowing and replacing government is a radical idea that really didn't exist before. Thomas Hobbes also believes in this idea of a social contract, but he's much more negative about it. He believes that the state of nature is bad. Humans naturally are monstrous, greedy, corrupt, brutish people. His main book is The Leviathan, which explains that idea. As a result, instead of allowing people to overthrow a government, he believes in an absolutist, strict government that has all of the power, and that's the best way to protect human rights, by a strong government. Right, so these two people are new, so we'll take a little bit more time to go through this. First one is Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and just like John Locke, just like Thomas Hobbes, he also has this idea of a social contract. In fact, his main book is called The Social Contract. Realize, though, it's a little different. One, he is not English. Okay, both Thomas Hobbes and John Locke were English. He is French. So the idea that someone from France, who, unlike England, has an absolutist government. We talked about people like King Louis XIV before. The fact that he would come up with this idea of a social contract, that's a pretty radical idea. And he believes that the general will, general means overall, will is your desire, what you want, of the people matters. And he believes that man is born free, but he is everywhere in chains. That was his direct quote. So he believes that freedom is absolutely essential, and that's how people are born. But as we go on with government and religion and society, that's how man gets chained up and loses that freedom. Since he believes that things like government chain man, prevent them from being free, his ideal government is a direct democracy. This is the exact opposite of Thomas Hobbes. The United States is not a direct democracy. Direct democracy is when the citizens, the people, will directly vote to make laws and decisions. Our democracy is slightly different. He believes, though, that since man is born free, then they need to be directly voting and making decisions to fully express the freedom that they were born with, and that their general will matters. What the majority think, that's how things should be. That's Jean-Jacques Rousseau. We'll just call him Rousseau, it's shorter. Then the last person we'll talk about is another French Enlightenment thinker, Voltaire. Some of his famous works include Zaire, The Age of Louis XIV, we've talked about before. These works, by the way, you don't have to memorize any of those. That's just to show you that they wrote. The key ideas that he has is similar to Rousseau in that individual freedoms must be promoted, and any sort of institutional control, whether it's religion or government, needs to be prevented. He's actually taking Rousseau's idea a step further. Rousseau believes the general will, so freedom together as a people. Voltaire is more each individual freedom, and any sort of religion and government that controls that needs to be prevented. So he is promoting ideas like freedom of speech, freedom of religion. These are extraordinarily radical ideas for this time. Today, especially in the United States, these are commonplace. We've come to take these, for being honest, for granted. So he is very liberal in his ideas towards politics and the economy and religion, etc. His ideas were so liberal and so radical, that he actually gets thrown in jail multiple times because they think he's a traitor. He's rebelling against government because he is anti-government. Government is oppressive. It prevents individual freedoms. Right, so quick recap for the two new people. Rousseau, social contract, general will matters, direct democracy. Voltaire, individual freedoms, anti-government, anti-religion, gets thrown in jail for it. Tomorrow we will talk about Wollstonecraft, Smith, and Montesquieu. here is what your homework is for today. 1, the bell ringer question, make sure you answer it. Second, this is just practice for the quiz that's once again at the end of this week. Then Google Classroom, there's a Google Form quiz. It is not graded. It is just review. You can take it multiple times if you want. You can do it again later this week. All I ask says complete before leaving class. Just complete before you're done working for the day. So have this quiz, have the bell ringer question done. If you have questions about the notes, please let me know. Otherwise, I will talk to you more tomorrow.